Hello and welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show. I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. We are back and you are watching the Smart Chiropractor Show, where each and every Tuesday, Jason and myself come on and we have interviews, we have mindset segments, we talk clinical, marketing, business. Jason, we try to touch on a little bit of everything that is relative to docs out there practicing today, tomorrow, next week, and throughout this year and beyond. How is your day going so far?
It's great. You know, we like to say this is the place you come every Tuesday to tune up and tune in your practice and your life and your skill set. This is the time to really, tune into what's going on, what's working, what's not working, and tune up your performance so that you are best at what you do each and every week. I'm doing great. I get super excited for these shows because it's really an opportunity for us to just pour new information into people that hopefully get excited, inspired, sort of break that, wait a minute, that's how you're supposed to think about it? Wait a minute, I didn't realize that that's possible. That's really what it's all about here at the Smart Chiropractor Show. New ideas, new strategies, new mindsets to help you get new results. So I'm fired up, I'm excited, it's a great program, and I'm glad everybody's joining us today.
I could not agree more. Today we have a fantastic show lined up, and we're going to kick it off right now with our first segment, which is all around mindset. Smart Chiropractor Show, February 1st, 2022, believe it or not. And we are going to touch and dive right into our first segment, which is all around mindset. This is how we lead off each and every Smart Chiropractor Show with what we believe is one of the most important things that you can protect and one of the most important things you can continue to develop, and that's your mindset. Jason, we're going to be talking today about how docs can and maybe should begin to think about chiropractic marketing. I know there's so much confusion out there between marketing and advertising. Why do you need to think about this? Isn't it just that you do something? I'm going to kick it over to you, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic and open up some of our listeners' and viewers' minds to maybe new ideas about marketing and how they've never thought about it before.
Well, let's start with just acknowledging how most chiropractors currently think about marketing or are learning to think about marketing, oftentimes from marketers. And that's an important point to make sure that you're taking into consideration as the source. A lot of times, people today, chiropractors today, typically learn about marketing. Most chiropractors will say proudly, I know nothing about business. I know nothing about marketing. I know nothing about any of those things. I'm a great chiropractor. And they didn't teach us marketing and business in school. So, it's up to me to sort of learn it. Where do most people learn it? Typically two places, either from their mentors, who oftentimes have been very successful in practice in decades past. Let's make sure we remember this point. And or they look to new vendors, different types of companies looking to sell them some sort of service that oftentimes makes their service sound a lot better than perhaps it really is. So what most chiropractors tend to think marketing is these days is limited to advertising. So you'll usually hear things like, well, I don't have to market my practice. Well, what does that mean? That means that I have enough referral traffic coming in because I've been around long enough that I don't have to advertise, is really what they're saying. This is one of those sort of synonyms that aren't so synonymical, not the same, whatever the word might be. So advertising is a part of marketing, but marketing is not limited to advertising. And that's one of the most important things you want to remember. The other part is understanding the differences between what advertising is and what almost all other forms of marketing are, because that's an important part of all of this. Advertising is a very specific thing. It's limited. It does what it is supposed to do quite well if that's what you want it to do. But the big challenge here, I guess, like chiropractic in general, a lot of people go, oh, I don't need a chiropractor. You go, well, who in their right mind would ever actually say that if they knew what chiropractic is? I guess like the chiropractor saying, I don't need to do any marketing. Nobody in their right mind would say that if we agreed on definitions. So let's make sure we're talking definitions. Advertising is paying to interrupt typically a stranger, somebody you don't know and who doesn't know you, but you shove your message in their face because they fit some sort of demographic that is what you're looking for. Maybe they're a certain age, it's male or female, they live in a certain area, maybe they have a certain interest, neck pain, back pain, yoga, gardening, whatever it may be, and you figure out your target market and you pay to shove your message in their face, unsolicited, unwanted. Most people, and probably including yourself, don't say, I wish there were more ads coming into my face, interrupting me from doing what I'm here to be doing altogether, whether it's watching TV, scrolling through your news feed, reading a magazine, whatever it may be. Unless you're an advertiser, you're likely not interested in seeing more ads. And advertisers are only interested in doing it because it helps them understand what other people are doing, what's working, what's not working, etc. So it is a very, very specific thing. What is the rest of it, right? If you're not paying to interrupt a stranger with your message, then what are we talking about? What we're talking about, similar to, wait a minute, chiropractic isn't pain relief? No comprende. What else would it be? Well, what else it would be is all the other stuff. And what I mean by all the other stuff is really, let's take a step back and understand that the number one reason your practice is not completely full with a waiting list, there is one simple reason why you are not practicing at your capacity, whatever your desired capacity is. If you want to work 1 day a week and be full, or 7 days a week and be full, you choose your capacity. But there's one reason why you are not booked and full. And that one reason is because not enough people in your community are aware of who you are and aware of the benefits they could be experiencing if they were to choose to work with you. There's just not enough people that know who you are and understand the value to them that they would receive by working with you. It's a simple formula. If more people knew who you were and knew the value that you could be providing for them, you would have demand. You would have people saying, I want to come see you for the reasons you are explaining to me that you help people. And that is one of the most important points of all of this. But we can go on for hours. We can do a whole show just on this one topic alone. We'll try to keep it quick and to the point. And if you've got questions, you should ask them. That's what the comment section down below is. If I say something or Jeff says something and you go, wait a minute, I'm not sure I understand. I always thought it was something else. We're not looking for critics, but we are looking for people who are curious. Go ahead, leave a comment. We'll get into more detail and maybe we'll even pick it up later on a future episode or show. The point that I want to make here very simply is this. Advertising to interrupt strangers is not the same thing as building a strategy to make sure you are effectively communicating who you are and the value people can expect to experience by working with you in a creative way. When you think anything marketing and creativity go together. A lot of people unfortunately think that marketing and data are the two words that go together. And there's nothing wrong with data, but data is the rear view mirror. You've heard that saying before. Historic performance is no indication of what will happen in the future. Every investment advisor tells you that. And marketing should have that same warning sign. The data from what happened in the past is no guarantee that the data will happen again in the future. All of you have tried different advertising campaigns that friends of you have tried, didn't work for me. Others have tried in your community, didn't work for me. And if it was the data that drove the right decisions, nobody would have to be creative. You just crunch the numbers and do what they say. But it doesn't work that way. So the key here is to make sure that you are, in very simple language, sharing your specific message with as many people in your community as you possibly can. And here's the hard part, on a consistent basis. That is the key here. So that's why we really start the show off with mindset, because marketing is a mindset. If you think marketing is advertising, you're going to have a very different experience than if you understand the reality that marketing typically is traditionally and is mostly, I'm not saying exclusively, advertising is part of marketing. But if you want the rest of it, just like pain relief is part of healthcare, it's part of it, certainly not all of it. If you want to get the best results, you've got to get your mind straight. And your mind should be focused on asking simple questions. Number one, what is it that I really offer people? Number two, how do I get that message to as many people as I possibly can? And in today's world, the answer is email and social media. Those are the two most important places for you to share your message with as many people as you possibly can. And the key here is this. This is one of the most important points to it. Most people think, well, let's lower the bar. Let's make it super inexpensive so strangers can come in and get to know me. But the way most doctors are lowering the bar is by lowering their price and adding an exorbitant amount of cost to what it is that you provide a stranger coming in at a discount. What if you did it the opposite? What if you did it the way many of the marketers do it that incentivize you to want to buy the things you buy? They make it attractive. They make it creative. Sometimes they even make it exclusive. Sometimes they even make it to the point that you can't have it, which oftentimes makes you want it even more. That's a different way of thinking about advertising. And that's what many chiropractors are finding out, is that their practices become completely different when you get focused on getting clear on what your message is, who your audience is, and how you can consistently share your message with the right people in the right place at the right time to attract believers. Not to convert people that just want the cheapest pain relief they can possibly find because the drugs didn't work, and if they did, they wouldn't be coming to see you. But those people that actually align with your values, your philosophy, your core belief and reasons for why you do what you do, whatever that may be. Sports, family, parenting, pregnancy, general wellness and health and well-being, any specialties for any specific conditions. Just saying, I'm a chiropractor, come in for chiropractic care, might be the most vague, nebulous way to explain to people who the right type of client is that you want to attract. So we'll cut it from there for right now on my side. But Jeff, I'll kick it back to you. Anything I said there that needs to be cleaned up, or anything you want to add to how chiropractors need to be thinking about marketing and what the right mindset is for today?
Jason, you nailed it. I think the three words that come to mind are teach and invite consistently. As we get into 2022, as we're there right now, it's about communicating. It's really, front-ended patient education. The more people in your community know about you, and specifically the benefits that your care can deliver, the easier it is for them to pick up the phone, click on that email, whatever it might be, hop on your schedule when the time is right. And it comes down to, as we talk about all the time, teach and invite consistently. Are you out there consistently, teaching something of benefit, showcasing the value that you deliver, highlighting some of those wins and testimonials that you're seeing day in and day out? The more that somebody in your health tribe, in your audience, can see themselves in what's already going on in your practice, that's going to make, that conversion event that much easier. They're going to be more inspired to pick up the phone and take action ultimately. The second part of that is teach and invite. Of course, the invitation is the call to action. So once you're, teaching, if you're using video, if you're using chiro emails through the Smart Chiropractor, if you're using the video scripts, however you decide to go about it, ensure that you have an invitation, a call to action. What's the next step? Because I'm going to say one of the most tragic positions to be in is to be, an educational additional resource that is, that's struggling. And I know there are so many docs out there that do fantastic work, that absolutely communicate well with the patients when they're in their practice, yet their schedules never seem to be full. And some of that comes down to systems and processes when marketing. The second part of it is ensuring that you have nice, tight and clean calls to action, or invitations as we call them. Every opportunity that you're using teaching is an opportunity then to invite. And if you string together those consistently, you will inevitably have success. It might not happen in a day. It might take more than a week. It might take a month or two. But I can guarantee you that those docs that are out there teaching and inviting consistently, as they look back over time, they are unequivocally going to have more full schedule, make a bigger impact, and have a hell of a lot more fun in practice than those docs that aren't doing so. So, that's why we're so passionate about it within the Smart Chiropractor, but these are really universal truths that whether you're a current member of the Smart Chiropractor, or a future member, or you're just tuning in and getting acquainted with sort of who we are and what we're about, these are really the tactical aspects, how to think about it and then how to implement, that you can utilize to better your practice today. So think about, here's the take-home message for today in the mindset segment is, when is the last time you got out there and taught and invited? Did you shoot a video yesterday, today? Were you able to send out that weekly email newsletter? These are things where it gives you the opportunity to teach and invite consistently. Jason, before we move on to clinical conversations, I'll kick it over to you to wrap up our mindset segment on today's show.
Well, the most important part of this conversation, I believe, is that those actions, those adjustments in your thinking end up coming out with better outcomes. And what better outcomes means is that you'll attract people that want to be with you. And that is what changes the game. You're not getting, all new patients are not the same. So let's just end up with what we call the 5 types of new patients, and we'll wrap up our segment. Because unless you understand what you're goaling for, right? New patients are new patients. No, they're not. There's different types of new patients. So what is the benefit of adjusting your mindset? Answer: better quality new patients. They're not all the same. Let me put it this way. Your best next new patient is making sure that you're keeping all of your current, or most of your current patients. If your hole on the bottom of your new patient bucket is the same size as the hole on the top of your new patient bucket, you're not winning. You are addicted to needing new patients every month because of the way you're thinking and therefore the systems you put in place. So number 1, keep your current patients. Number 2, your second best new patient to attract are referrals, people that know your current patients, who get recommended to you by their current patients. Third best type of new patient is somebody who's following you, someone who's on your email list, following you on social media, someone who's receiving your monthly campaigns, weekly topics, daily posts, what you are teaching and inviting over and over and over again. Those people receiving that are the third best type of new patient to attract. Why? Because they're listening to you, they're learning from you, they're seeing who they know that's coming to you, they're getting all the social validation necessary to say, I'm not just looking for a chiropractor, I'm looking for you. That's one of the big things we forget as professionals about professional marketing, is that most normal people, when it comes to professional services, lawyers, doctors, accountants, counselors, psychologists, professional services, most normal people are not looking for the cheapest, most convenient professional service. Most normal people are looking for the best quality service they can find at a price they can afford. And if they have to travel, often they will. How do they know that? They know that because of how you teach and invite consistently. We'll complete the 4. The fourth best type of new patient. This is the first time advertising comes into the conversation. You could build a practice on the first 3 types of new patients and never spend a penny on advertising. But if you want to, the best place to start advertising would be to retarget advertising to the people following you, the people on your email list and your social media channels. Why? Because they're getting to know you. They're getting to get a sense of your vibe, who you are, what you're about, whether they like you or don't like you, whether they think you're interesting or not, whether they think you're smart or not. That's the fourth type of best new patient. And the fifth best type of new patient is the one that everybody else is going for. They're the ones on Groupon. They're the ones on Facebook ads, now TikTok ads. They're the people going, oh, wait, I'm just strolling, looking at, fun stuff online. Oh, a chiropractor advertisement for $12 for everything I can imagine needing to understand about my problem. $12, I can afford $12. Maybe it's 18, whatever your number is. I better do it now because there's only a limited number of them. They come on in and, well, they kick the tires. They take advantage of the deal. And you learn the lesson that most people who take advantage of deals are deal shoppers. It's how it works in most cases, most of the time. Now, I know one of you are going to go, no, that's not true, Jason. I have one of my best patients that came in from an advertisement I once put out, and they're still with me years later. So I acknowledge there are exceptions to what I am saying, but they are exceptions, not the rule, and that's not a strategy. With that, let's wrap it up, and that's our mindset mentorship. If you've got comments, leave them down below. I want to hear what you have to say. You agree? You disagree? Those of you that are part of the Smart Chiropractor, using our system, seeing how easy and automated it can be, is it working for you? If so, let us know. Those of you that go, ads are great. Tell me why. I want to hear from you. Leave your comments down below. We'll talk about it as time goes on.
Marketing or advertising? The answer is probably some of both. But you want to make sure you are getting out there with marketing, specifically content, as we've spoken about. Teach and invite consistently. This is the theme you'll hear on this show throughout 2022 and beyond. But without further ado, we're going to hop into our clinical conversations. All right, Smart Chiropractor Show, February 1st, 2022. It is time for clinical conversations. Earlier this year, I guess it was last year now, we held an event called Axis. We brought together some fantastic minds throughout the chiropractic space, and one of them was Dr. Tera Giroux. She practices at UFC Performance Institute. She put together a fantastic presentation, and we're going to get a sneak peek at exactly what that looked like on today's segment of Clinical Conversations.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Tera Giroux, and I am the sports medicine manager at the UFC Performance Institute in Las Vegas, Nevada. Today, what we're going to be focusing on is how we use an interdisciplinary approach to a pre- and post-surgical shoulder rehab in an MMA athlete. So before we begin, I just want to tell you a little bit about me in case we've never met before. So I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, just a suburb just outside. I went to Michigan State for undergrad, where I studied kinesiology and exercise science. And then I went on to Palmer, Florida, where I graduated in 2014. From there, I moved up to Charlotte, and I did my preceptor with the Carolina Panthers team chiro, which I was able to learn from a great multidisciplinary team. And then I did a few more years in private practice in various multidisciplinary settings. I was also one of the associate docs to the Seattle Seahawks team chiro. So just knew that I really wanted to be involved in sports from the beginning, and really sought out mentors and places where I could do that to be successful. So after kind of 5 years in private practice, I got the position that I have now at the UFC Performance Institute, or the PI for short, which you'll kind of hear me refer throughout the slides. And I started there just a little over 2 years ago in March of 2019. At this moment, I believe I'm the only official full-time employee as a chiro by the UFC, and especially by the UFC, and then any other MMA leagues. And again, I'm based out of Las Vegas, but I also travel to the events that we put on globally. So a little bit about us at the Performance Institute. So kind of our motto and our goal is to accelerate the evolution of MMA through the provision of interdisciplinary services and evidence-based science, innovation, and technology, while sharing best practices for performance optimization with athletes and coaches around the world. So yes, we do take care of the athletes. It's a place for them to seek treatment and consults and get training. But at the kind of core of what we're doing, we're really collecting data to try to drive this sport forward and to share that data with the world in order to have everyone rise up with us. So the objectives today are a few different things. The main focus is going to be about a case study on shoulder injury management. Now we're going to look at this in a couple different phases. So these are kind of terms that we've coined on our own that kind of separate the seasons or the year for these athletes and these fighters. So a pre-fight is going to be kind of like right before you start your camp. Now, a fight camp is usually between 8 to 12 weeks, kind of depending on the athlete and if they get that amount of time, unless, it's a short notice kind of call. We're going to look at what we're doing with them through the fight camp itself and how things change based upon training loads. We're going to look at the study after the fight and then also after surgery. We're also going to look at our interdisciplinary approach to surgical rehab. So you're going to hear about the sports medicine side, but you're also going to learn about how nutrition and sports psych and sports science and S&C all kind of come together to kind of help that rehab and help to be adjuncts to us as we're trying to get that patient back to their sport. So let's get going. The first case study we're going to talk about is going to be with a 33-year-old female MMA athlete who presents to our clinic with right shoulder pain. Now she competes in the flyweight division, which is 125 pounds. Now again, we're just going to go through these phases from pre-fight and kind of when she first presents into our office, what that looks like, what we see in the beginning. And you'll notice that as we kind of get all this info, she's going to tell us that she's going to start training for a fight camp soon. So she's going to have a fight coming up. We're going to take you through that fight camp and what that looks like. And then we'll transition to after that fight, that post-fight and kind of pre-surgical couple weeks. And then take you through our post-surgical rehab protocols and our return to sports. So just a little kind of history and some subjective findings to kind of get you familiar with the case. So this particular athlete has had chronic issues with this shoulder for approximately 2 years now. She couldn't really pinpoint a specific onset or a specific injury. It's just kind of gradually got worse over the last 2 years of training. So her pain specifically increases after activity. So especially when she's sparring or striking, which would be, you're boxing and kind of like going live, almost like you're in a fight. She notes her pain is kind of always worse again after training or like towards the end of the day. Her pain does improve and get a little bit better with rest and with treatment, but it never fully kind of resolves or stays that way. Now, also she has kind of an associated right cervical C5-6 radiculopathy. So before she came and saw us, she actually did see an ortho consult that was set up kind of by our medical staff. So she did this in July of 2020. They did do an MRI and they did see that she had labrum tear, some biceps tendonitis, some rotator cuff tendonitis, lots of swelling kind of in and around the joint. So obviously she kind of had told the ortho that she still wanted to try to make it to this fight. You'll see in a second, she has a fight coming up that's booked. So they recommended for now to kind of decrease pain, to recommend an injection in the shoulder. So she got a PRP shot in her right shoulder, and they also prescribed her an oral steroid for her cervical pain. Now, this athlete came into our clinic for her initial consult about a week after her ortho consult in the beginning of August of 2020. So she comes in and she tells us that she has a fight booked in October. So she really wants to make it to this fight and it's a big fight for her. She wants to deal with this surgery after the fight. So she's starting camp soon. She's got about an 8 to 10 week camp ahead of her. And she wants our help with trying to manage the pain and the symptoms until after the fight. This is really a common thing for our athletes. So you might be thinking like, why haven't you pulled this athlete out of this fight? Or, she needs surgery, she should get surgery. It's just a little different scenario. At the end of the day, these athletes that we have are independent contractors. So we can't necessarily exactly tell them what to do. We recommend, we give them all of their options, and we help to support them in whatever decision they end up making. It's very, very common for a lot of these athletes to kind of push through pain, push through injuries, just to kind of make it to that fight, get that paycheck to be able to kind of breathe for a while. And then they're able to kind of handle everything after that. So our rehab plan is going to be PT 3 to 5 times a week minimum, every week until her fight. So our focus is on just pain and symptom management, maintenance of good range of motion, as much strength as we can keep on her, just to kind of enable her to be able to train and to function. So our initial examination, just from her viewpoint, subjectively, she describes her pain as achy, throbbing through her right shoulder, but the pain changes and it's just generally global pain. Again, she never really feels this during practice or training, but kind of always after, and by the end of the day, she starts to get that achy, kind of throbbing, weak pain coming on. She does note that it also affects her sleep, that she can't really lay on that side. And kind of due to that sleep, it's also very hard to recover. She's not getting adequate sleep. She's restless. So she's not recovering for her next training cycle. And that's going to be definitely a big hindrance in this case to, why she can't fully recover and this injury can't fully heal. Objectively, she's got that fighter posture, that forward posture, upper cross syndrome, rounded shoulders. She's also got a little bit of a lower right shoulder due to some global atrophy, and specifically she has some poor downward scapular rotator control as well. Palpation-wise, tons of trigger points and hypertonicity in especially right pec minor and major. We're seeing some hypomobility due to that, some restrictions in C1, C5, and 6. T1 especially, and then kind of in just like that mid-thoracic spine. She does have some hypermobility and laxity in the right glenohumeral joint, as well as the scapula on that side. Range of motion wise, technically she's within normal limits, so that's why it's in quotes, but again, that's just because she is a little bit more hypermobile, globally lax, a little bit of instability in that actual labrum and the joint. Lots of positive tests, obviously some, impingement, some biceps, some rotator cuff, some labrum, as well as some nerve tension tests from kind of the neck and then just that posture and shoulder entrapment. So what we want to do is to get her through this fight camp. Our interventions, we're going to really focus heavy on stabilization exercises, specifically through the shoulder, the scapula, on the cervical spine. Basically, we're at this point, we're managing her symptoms. We're noticing we're basically just maintaining, and that's about as good as we're going to get. The athlete's aware of this. We sit down and we kind of always we check in with them every single day, every single week on the progressions, how they're feeling about it, how we're feeling about it. So again, relying on soft tissue techniques such as massage, IRT, Grassin, fascial manipulation, dry needling, cupping, using modalities like shockwave, lasers, things that we have in the clinic. So again, just kind of her response to treatment would be ultimately she would feel better after treatment. It would reduce or kind of maintain her symptoms on a lower level, but would flare up again kind of during training when she would have hard trainings at the end of the day. Again, athlete understood this as her care, and she understood that she would likely is going to need to seek surgical opinions after this fight. So Fight Camp Rehab kind of in an interdisciplinary collaboration. So you guys kind of know obviously what we've been doing, but S&C wise, a lot of these athletes are doing 3 to 5 times a week with strength and conditioning. And depending on what their initial diagnostics or goals say, that's what their program is going to be kind of tailored around. So for her in specific, we want to improve cardiovascular function. We're working on kind of time and load management. We're focusing on, the right amount of reps and sets and like having that come into play with her MMA training schedule and loads. So due to her diagnostic testing and what the S&C team decided after they analyzed the results is they designed a program to improve her maximum strength. So that was one of her weakness on kind of her test, is just to overall strength within the weight class. Something that I hadn't mentioned yet, but I want to, is that she's recently moved up a weight class. So she used to fight at 115. So she's now fighting at 125. So one of the goals is more of a hypertrophy program for her to improve her strength, to help to kind of support herself in this new weight class with bigger girls. So sports science wise, we use a wearable device called the Oura Ring, which is really similar to like the Whoop Watch or the Omega Wave. So it's going to monitor her recovery. It's going to monitor her sleep. It's going to monitor her fitness, her training. It's going to give her good HRV reads and really just tell us what her readiness for the day is. Nutrition-wise, we had a consult with her in order to support her needs through the fight camp, but also recovering through this injury. So she's taking her normal daily supplements. Her diagnostics, she has a history of anemia, so she's on iron. Her hypertrophy wise, since we're kind of trying to bulk up to recently move up to this new weight class, we're going to put her on a caloric surplus as well as add in creatine. And then a little bit more for the soft tissue repair and injury that we're dealing with. We put her on collagen as well as some inflammation control, such as turmeric, omegas, and magnesium. Now, we also pulled in sports psychology for this because it's really important when you have an athlete that has to modify their activity so much, or they're dealing with pain and they can't train like how they want to. That's going to increase anxiety throughout that fight camp, especially when you're not sleeping and recovering well either. That just tends to kind of increase anxiety around everything, that you really can't feel rested and recovered. Now, the fight week, her original fight date was supposed to be in October of 2020. However, a week and a half before her fight, she tested positive for COVID-19. So unfortunately, we had to push the fight back. We rescheduled the fight for the end of November of 2020. So we pushed it back about a month. The result was that she did lose by decision. And so what I want to talk about kind of next is our transition into what our COVID return to play protocol actually looks like. I think it was a cool thing to be able to add into this so you guys can kind of see how we handled the situation of her testing positive for COVID in the middle of this fight camp and fight week. So here are some implications. So this is from the British Journal of Sports Medicine. As you can see, there's different stages of return to sport, and we're monitoring a bunch of different things, right? We're monitoring subjective symptoms. We're monitoring resting heart rate, SpO2, RPE. We're looking at objective measurements. So, are they recovering? What's their cardiorespiratory system like? What's their heart rate like? What's their increasing their load look like? And we have to also go by stages of duration. So the first stage is going to be that 10-day kind of minimum quarantine for these guys, right? So they're resting, maybe they're walking if they feel good enough, they're just doing their normal ADLs, and they're just allowing their body to recover. As we advance into kind of stage 2, they're allowed to do some lighter activity. So maybe walking, some light jogging, some stationary bike, but no resistance training. And we really want to keep their heart rate to under 70% at this time for no longer than 15 minutes. So we're just looking at, are their symptoms increasing? That's just basically the overall goal, or the overall idea of when we should advance them to the next stage. So do their symptoms, are they good? Do they not increase, either at the point of that exercise or within the 24 hours after that? If the symptoms don't exacerbate, we can move on to stage 3 and so on. So here's the American College of Cardiology's return to play protocol. As you can see, they kind of got this like nice little flow chart. It's pretty similar. So again, if they're COVID positive, depending on if they're asymptomatic, they have mild symptoms and they're not hospitalized, or they have significant symptoms and they're hospitalized. Again, if you're symptomatic, you're resting until then, and then after 2 weeks without symptoms, you can slowly start to resume activity. Again, you're just monitoring for any type of deterioration or exacerbation of symptoms. Now, some other professional sports that we had found kind of on their return to play, we've again been able to pull a few things, which is awesome. So again, just basic COVID positive athlete, 10 days rest from positive result. If they're asymptomatic, on day 11, they do a full cardiac exam, full labs, focusing on troponin levels. And if those levels are normal, they can kind of return to the team and work up to their capacity. If they're symptomatic, you're going to have your rest and isolation for 10 days after that positive test, and then another 2 days post-symptom resolution. So kind of general consensus on these were that they were kind of just doing this kind of 4-day return to play protocol. It's going to be longer, obviously. You're going to stay in that phase if you do have symptoms until they're better and they don't exacerbate. So due to that, I'm going to go on to what we've decided that our return to play will look like. So day 1 is we're going to keep the heart rate under 70%. And no more than 15 minutes, we're going to do a steady state aerobic activity. So it could be light walking on the treadmill. Normally, it's just a watt bike, just something that they can kind of sit. We're going to have a heart rate monitor on them to make sure that they're not going above that 70%, and it's going to be completely monitored. They do good with that. They have no exacerbations during or after, and they come in day 2. They're like, yep, I felt good, no issues. We can bump them up to 80% of the heart rate. And we can also go up to about 30 minutes at this time. So we're staying kind of at like that low to medium level aerobic intensity at that time. If they feel like they can good enough, we might be able to get them on the treadmill to do a 30-minute jog. If they can tolerate it, again, we can do some static technical training. So maybe just going and just hitting some bads for 15 minutes. Day 3, we're going to up it a little bit more. So they did good with kind of their cardio so far. We're good with allowing them to have no cardio limitations. So we're going to be able to bump that up to kind of a moderate activity output level, about 45 to 60 minutes of training. We can reintroduce at this time some more tactical training. Want to keep it still to about 30 minutes at about 70% level. And as long as they do good with that, no exacerbations, day 4, they can have a full return to activity and resume normal training. So back on our kind of post-fight now. So she fought, she lost. It's now coming into end of November, December. She had a medical follow-up for her post-fight exam with our medical staff. They re-MRI'd the right shoulder and kind of still the same findings, a bunch of labral findings, mild tear and infraspinatus, lots of tendinitis and supraspinatus, teres minor, subscap, biceps tendon. So we decided to go ahead and go on with a consult of an orthopedic surgeon. They obviously recommended that she go ahead and get surgery, but we wanted to discuss all of the options first with not only us, the athlete, her manager, her team and training partners, and the medical staff of the UFC. After we kind of all met, we decided that we would go ahead and the next step will be a surgical intervention. They ended up doing a labral repair with a bicep tenonesis. So she came in about a week after her surgery for her initial post-surgical evaluation. She rated her pain as a 3 or 4 out of a 10 on the VAS scale. So observation-wise, she had 3 staples, 4 stitches, about 3 to 4 incision points. She was having really good wound healing at that time. Good granular tissue was noted. She had minimum swelling, minimal tenderness to touch, minimal redness. So overall, no signs of infection, and her wounds were looking really good. Basic palpation was noted some hypertonicity in the pec minor and major. Her passive range of motion, again, we don't really stress that too much. It's not appropriate at this time. But as we kind of start, we want to just make sure, obviously, that keeps below 90 degrees for the first few weeks. And I'll kind of show you how we kind of go into that in a minute. And then, of course, kind of strength and special orthopedic tests are just not appropriate at this time. I thought it would be a really cool time to just show you guys her Oura Ring trends. So what you're looking at on this purple top one is her sleep score, and the bottom is her readiness score. Now, you can kind of see they kind of correlate the same in some spots where they're dipping. Now, she got this ring when she first came out to see us in the beginning of August, and this is going through February, right? So I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit. You can see in kind of middle of October, she gets that big dip, right? It starts to dip. Her sleep score kind of dips into the 50s. And again, these are out of 100. The higher, the better. Sleep scores, we really would love above 80, and you can see she's rarely getting that at all throughout this entire journey. So that's a big issue for her. Her readiness score, again, higher the better. We'd love to see 80 and above, but she's kind of sticking around 50, 60-ish for most of these, and it drops down in a couple levels. But again, that mid-October drop that you see, that's when she got COVID. So it's really interesting and really cool, I think, to see how that has affected her sleep score and her overall readiness score and her kind of windows of trainability. Now, she recovers a little bit after COVID, but then we get a nice big dip again in the middle of November. And lo and behold, that's when she fought. So that fight week takes a big toll on you. You're cutting a lot of weight, and it's really hard to recover. You're not eating as much as you want to because you're dealing with the weight cut, and then you're dealing with the stress and the anxiety of having a fight in a few days. So again, just a really cool trend that you guys can kind of see how we use data in order to kind of just measure and validate what we're finding, what our findings are, and what we're seeing in the clinic. So that starts to, again, those scores, they go up a little through December. They drop a little bit beginning in mid-December. That's when she had her surgery. So potentially that sleep score, not well, she's not doing well because she's not getting comfortable with sleeping in a sling, with her shoulder, with her neck. But then gradually we start to get better, right? So there's a little bit of gap that you guys see here in kind of January, February. That means that she wasn't wearing the ring.
All right. That was Dr. Tera Giroux from the UFC. Whether you take care of super high level athletes as she does day in and day out that are putting their bodies through probably the ultimate turmoil, or whether you are seeing more weekend warriors and CrossFitters, I think there's just so many great take-home messages and interesting data points that to peel back the curtain and see the Oura Ring stats, I thought was absolutely fantastic to understand kind of that surgical decision making. There's a chiropractor in the building. How does all that work together? Absolutely fascinating. And sports chiropractic is an area where we're going to spend a lot of time this year, and I think beyond as well. Jason, what take-home message that you gleaned from Dr. Tera's talk? Anything that stands out to you?
I'm going to stay high level with it. I'm always impressed with chiropractors who are sort of breaking the glass ceiling and working with high-level professional athletes. These are, as we've talked about in other segments, namely our marketing segment, this is a mindset. And too many chiropractors' mindset is, well, people can't afford our care, so we just have to make it cheaper. Well, I'm not so sure that's the case. I don't think she's doing this for free. And in fact, we've spoken to quite a few chiropractors who work with high-level athletes, and they get paid and paid well and appropriately well because of the value they provide. So I'm totally impressed with chiropractors who are able to sort of break through break through the noise. They've got a mindset. It's always been my dream to either be a high-level athlete. Maybe they've had injuries or reasons why they're not one themselves. And the next best thing is to be there next to an athlete they're able to help keep in the game, or the fight in this case. And I'm just impressed. And I love talking to chiropractors that go for it. They're not just into survival. Like, okay, I covered my bills this month. We did it, which is wonderful. But there are those that say, I have a dream and I really want to work with the best. Fill in the blank of what category that is. I admire and appreciate those people doing that.
I agree. So be sure to tune in next week for our next clinical conversation. But right now, we are going to move over to our Research That Matters segment. What does that mean? Stay tuned and you're about to find out. Smart Chiropractor Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is now time for our Research That Matters segment. This is where we talk about what our docs within the Smart Chiropractor are teaching and inviting this week. If you're unfamiliar with the Smart Chiropractor, we think in terms of monthly content campaigns, weekly topics, and daily posts. And it's February 1st. We just went into a new monthly campaign. February is all around the cervical spine for our Smart Chiropractor members. That is our monthly campaign. It is all around the cervical spine. We know that one of the top 3 reasons why people visit a chiropractor for the first time often is a neck issue. Low back, neck, and headaches tend to be the top 3 reasons people are initially exposed to chiropractic care. So this is a keystone topic. Every single year, we have a monthly campaign devoted to low back, devoted to headache, and devoted to the cervical spine or the neck, because we realize this is so important. And the more that you are proactively answering the questions people in your community currently have about their health, the more full your schedule will look. Now, if we look towards this weekly topic, it is how to get rid of a stiff neck. You can tell that that is not written like it's coming out of a peer-reviewed journal. It is written in consumer speak, because that is what people in your community are actually searching for and looking for answers when they go online, when they visit your Facebook page, as they receive an email. How do I get rid of this stiff neck? So this is one of our weekly topics. And to be super clear, as we've talked about on today's show, there is so much more to chiropractic than pain relief alone. There are performance aspects, quality of life aspects, you name it. But this month, we're talking cervical spine. So therefore, we want to connect with those high impact topics that people in your community are talking about amongst themselves, have questions on. Maybe they have misinformation. Maybe they're getting disinformation from somebody else. We want to put you in the driver's seat and position you as that bearer of information, as somebody who can really lead them towards better health and wellness to ultimately be their guide. Jason, as we talk cervical spine, in this week, our docs, again, are talking specifically about how to get rid of a stiff neck. We're tying it all to the research, but at a high level, what are some of your thoughts as docs get out there and teach and invite this content topic?
I love what you said earlier about how, it's really about having the right message at the right time. And, here comes February. What's going on for most people in February? Well, let's acknowledge the undercurrent of the insanity of the world that's going on. If that wasn't enough to be a pain in the neck, I don't know what is. But if it's not enough, let's think about it. It's February. What's February? February's after January. Well, everybody knows that. But what's January usually represent? January usually represents, let's get back into the gym. Let's get in shape. New year, new me, new body, new habits. And 2-3 weeks into it, what's going to happen to most deconditioned people, especially those who are most deconditioned, because these are typically the people who partied as hard as they could in December for the holidays. Came January, okay, I'm going to push it and make up for all that damage I did in December. And what's typically going to happen to most people that don't know better? They're probably going to flare up. Why? They're deconditioned. They're not paying attention. They're just trying to get the best results as fast as possible without any understanding of the reality of the body. And the reality of the body is that it is part of a process. It is healing and function is what it's all about, not just pain relief. And most people have no clue how their bodies work, which is probably why we're in such a pandemic to the degree that we are. People don't understand the innate capacity to heal themselves, their innate immune system. They don't understand how their bodies work. And if that's a problem in your community, as I'm confident it is, the question you have to ask yourself is who's going to do something about it? Who's going to straighten the record? Who's going to say, hey, wait a second, I know everybody thinks that you need to go take your aspirin, your Advils, your shots, your injections, your steroid injections, steroid drugs. A friend of mine came over who I know the other night. My God, my neck is killing me. Prednisone, Advil, let's just throw it all in there because it hurts so bad. And again, let's just ask. If you don't share the message, if you don't teach and invite them on a consistent basis, where do you think they're going to learn all of this? I know the profession has this whole concept that, well, the schools should be doing it. The associations should be doing it. The organizations, that guy, that girl, that person, somebody else should be teaching my community about why they should come to my practice. Well, that's just silly talk at this point. You've got to know that your practice is your responsibility. And even if other organizations are promoting chiropractic, I can practically virtually guarantee they're probably not saying it the way you would say it. They're probably not promoting it the way you would promote it. And all of that is just a long way of saying, if you don't take responsibility for getting your message out to your people in your community, who do you think will? So cervical spine is one of the most obvious conversations. This is not one of those systemic issues that people go, what? How in the world could a chiropractor help my fill in the blank? This should be one of those easy layups. I know they always call it a slam dunk, but those aren't easy. Layups are easy. This is a layup. This is one of those easy shots you should be taking. But again, it all starts with making sure you get your head straight, your mindset adjusted to understand how to think about communicating with people in today's modern digital world. Great topic, Jeff. Did a great job on really getting the weeks down in consumer speak. There's no better way to get your message out to your people than following this program.
Thank you, Jason. And this segment is brought to you by the Smart Chiropractor. So if you don't have your marketing plan dialed in for 2022, please head over to the Smart Chiropractor, check out what we have going on, hop on a demo with our team. Let's have a conversation and see if we can help you get your message out to your community at a higher level. We think about it in 3 big phases. We want to help you get more new patients in your front door. We want to help you retain more of your active patients. And really, our biggest focus is build that reactivation loop of proactive patients, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that throughout this year. So please head over to the smartchiropractor.com and check out how we can help you market your practice better this year through the tools that we talk about week in and week out on this broadcast. And final note on how to get rid of a stiff neck, we're talking about cervical spine. Everything that we put out and produce is always tied to the research. An interesting antidote that I saw just the other day from Greg Lehman, I know a lot of docs out there follow his work, was really about, and he phrased it in a way that I probably won't do it justice right now, but I'll do my best. And it was, the fact is, a majority of movement-based exercise works. The question is, are you asking your patients about what they are unable to do because of the challenges? It's not the challenge that drives them into your practice, as our friend Stephen Francis says. It's the life effect of that challenge. What is it preventing them from doing day in and day out? And then you can build your care plan to help them achieve that goal. If you do that, you won't go wrong. You'll have a patient-centric approach, and I guarantee you, your patients will be super happy to refer people in as they get back to doing those things that they love. So without further ado, we're going to move over to our next segment. We're going to keep this train moving on today's show. This is our member highlight. I love talking about this directly after our Research That Matters segment because it shows you exactly how docs are putting this into action. So here is our member highlights for this week's show. All right, Jason, member highlights on today's Smart Chiropractor show. I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. I'll say a few words, then I'd love for your thoughts. This is Dr. Mike. We're going to hold his last name because we haven't gotten explicit permission to share it. But Dr. Mike is a guy that I actually went to high school with, and I am not kidding. Practices up in Massachusetts, and we went to high school together. Had no idea that both of us became chiropractors until many, many moons later. And he is now a member of the Smart Chiropractor as of a few weeks ago. And we had this fantastic note sent over, and this is a member highlight that I absolutely love. So everybody can read it. I'll just go through it quickly. He had his busiest day in about 2 months, the day after the initial success email went out. That's part of Chiro emails, which is a part of the Smart Chiropractor, and that goes out automatically on his behalf through our system. So all automated. Obviously, the pandemic has put a damper on the office over these last few weeks as things have shifted and changed, and it was pretty awesome to have a full schedule again. So far, so good. I love seeing that. We always talk about it, Jason. Every doc, if you're watching this, doc, you have a proverbial gold mine sitting in your EHR right now that I can nearly guarantee you are not doing enough with. We love to help you communicate to that gold mine of people. Who are those people that already know, trust, and like you? Those individuals who had a great experience in your practice. We call it filling the holes in your bucket. Jason, I'll kick it over to you right there.
You know, this is a great example of what works and what's working. It's just phenomenal. I think this is a great example of the things I like to highlight, which are automation. All right. These are programs that are automatically done for you. In the digital marketing world, they like to refer to it as set it and forget it. Some of my favorite words, put it in place and let the machine do the work for you. It's a real great example of that. It also follows our philosophy. Again, this all goes back to mindset. So automation is one thing, right? Listen, spinal screenings are not automated. You've got to get out. You've got to leave your family, oftentimes on a weekend, or not do something to take care of yourself, like exercise or go relax, decompress, whatever you need to do. Often you're out there, and I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're not automated. Okay, the more automated things you can do, the better. The second thing that it does is it really focuses, and we've mentioned this in early segments, and we're going to keep talking about this over and over and over and over again, that your best next new patient is keeping your current patient. I know that sounds so obvious and so ridiculous, but it's not. It's not obvious. So many chiropractors are so addicted to, I need new ones, I need new ones, I need new ones, and never ask themselves, what am I doing to keep connecting with the people that have already come to see me? It makes no sense. We've all learned, make new friends, but keep the old. We all learned that in kindergarten. So the ability to, the other benefit of this, the ability to connect with people that have come to see you through your Chiro emails, also automated. Your social media is automated. Your emails are automated. What does that do? Well, every chiropractor that's been in practice for more than just a few minutes knows the difference between somebody who goes, I am so glad I got that email. I've been thinking about you. I've been meaning to come back in. I've been meaning to schedule. It's been on my mind, and you just sent me the right thing at the right time. Thank you. Let's get back into the routine. Now, that is a whole different conversation than nice to meet you. What have you been going through? What questions do you have for me? And going through the sales pitch of trying to convert someone to wanting to say yes, when oftentimes those people came in because they just couldn't say no to your unbelievable deal. You'll check me out. You'll make sure that I don't have some major problem that requires some serious terminal care. You'll even give me an adjustment. You'll give me a recommendation for care. For how much? Less than $100, sometimes less than $50, sometimes less than $25. That experience is very different trying to give away your services to get them in, to convince them, convert them to wanting what you really offer is a whole different experience, then welcome back. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we sent those emails out. Also, let's make sure we stay on track this time. What questions do you have, or what do I need to say in order to make sure that you stay with the program or get back on the program? It's been a while. So we have a philosophy that there are 5 types of new patients, and the people you're probably advertising to are level 5 new patients, which are not nearly good as your first level new patient, which is reactivating those people that haven't been in for quite a while. We know how to automate it. We know it works. And thank you, Dr. Mike, for validating it and sharing your experience.
You said it, Jason. It is about automation. It is about really lightening the load on your practice. You can see the results here. If you head over to smartchiropractor.com, you can see an array of results from docs around the country. We service docs around the world. Here's my take-home message for you today, Doc, as you listen and tune in, is you have to be out there sending emails to your patients. It is a critical, essential communication channel that is no longer a nice to have. If it's a nice to have, then you're going to see that effect with a roller coaster and yo-yo in your practice and in your schedule. When you have consistent communication and utilize email as one of those primary channels, it is like clockwork. We sent over 6 million emails last year, so we got a pretty good idea of what happens when you send email on behalf of hundreds of chiropractors, and you do it in a fashion that emphasizes the teach and invite consistently philosophy that we hold dear. Earlier on today's show, we talked about this month being Cervical Spine is our campaign, and our weekly topic is all around stiff neck. So you can imagine what is going out this week, educating, engaging, teaching millions of individuals throughout hundreds of chiropractors that we work with around the world. And yes, the call to action is a simple click to hop onto that online scheduler. So that is where we see so much opportunity, and so many docs aren't taking advantage of it. Mike, great to reconnect with you after many years. Awesome that you're a Smart Chiropractor member, and props on getting the results. We always say results follow actions. Mike took the action step of, taking a chance, quote unquote. He hadn't worked with us before. And to any doc out there, I can appreciate the fact that anything new feels like a chance. But if you give the opportunity to work with a team who knows what they're doing, then you will get the results you desire. You take a little action along the way on your own behalf, and you are certainly seeing those results continue to accelerate. So Mike, thanks for coming on board. Glad you had your busiest day in a few months. Let's let the good times roll. And Jason, we're going to move on to our featured guest. We have been stockpiling behind the scenes a fantastic lineup of featured guests. Let's move into that segment on today's Smart Chiropractor Show. Smart Chiropractor Show, February 1st, 2022. This is our featured guest segment. Let me bring that up on the screen right here. Jason, we have had the pleasure and opportunity to connect with an array of docs that we have never met before. Some that we've known a while, some that we haven't met before. This lineup is going to knock the socks off. I got a little pun going on for today's guest. Every one of our viewers, because we are connecting with docs that are doing a variety of different things inside the chiropractic profession, expanding outside the chiropractic profession. We've talked mindset, we've talked entrepreneurism, we've talked business, we've talked clinical with these docs. Today we have Dr. Alan Sokoloff of the Professional Football Chiropractic Society. Let me make sure I get that correct. Before I play this video, I know we stayed on quite a few extra minutes with Alan. What was maybe a take-home message or two? What's a little teaser you can throw out there before we play the interview that we had with Dr. Alan?
Well, tis the season for professional football. It's coming to, a super championship coming up very soon. And, it was really awesome to speak to a chiropractor who's really a veteran in professional football and professional sports. And not just professional sports, but we really, got a good look at his journey to get there. It started with his passion for serving people, started with, his interest in wanting to help athletes locally. And it just grew. High school athletes, college athletes, professional athletes. It starts not with the I'll say end in mind. I guess it does. You have a vision for something, but it does happen by, as Jeff always says, results follow action. It starts by taking action. Dr. Sokoloff has done that not only for his own personal practice, but he's really built and leads now an organization that I think is one of the best kept secrets in our entire profession and one of the best opportunities for us to really work with and learn from in order to share their story with your community. Let's learn more from Dr. Sokoloff himself.
Hey docs, Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host Dr. Jason Deitch, and today we have a special featured guest on the show. We have Dr. Alan Sokoloff, a practicing chiropractor, president of the Professional Football Chiropractic Society, and educator around the world. Alan, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us.
Thank you for allowing me to chat with you guys. I've been looking forward to it.
Our pleasure. So I always like to trace back first question, a little bit of origin story. You're obviously deeply vested in sports chiropractic. What started the passion? How did things begin for you?
I think I've always had a passion for it because I saw it as a way for me to get patients back in the day. Plus, I played sports in high school, played a little in college, and taking care of each other at the. I went to Palmer College, and taking care of each other, playing rugby, I saw a lot of benefit to it. When I got out of school, I started working with the college that I went to school at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And then from there, everything started to blossom because that was my passion. That was my reason for coming to work every day. And that was my variety, so I wouldn't have to do the same thing every day.
That is awesome. You are now the president of, if I got it right, the Professional Football, as in the NFL, right? Professional Football Chiropractic Society. What do people need to know about it? It seems to me like the best kept secret in our profession. You guys are working with the highest profile athletes, at least in America, if not the world.
Yeah.
How did that all come about?
So it's interesting that you use those words, best kept secret. About 15 years ago, I've been with the Baltimore Ravens for 22 years, and I had the opportunity to work with some of the elite athletes that you've spoken about. And I'm figuring, there's got to be other people like me. So through a series of reaching out and networking, I found out that there were others like me. And I'm going to date myself here. There used to be something called the National Aerobic Championships, the Reebok National and Crystal Light back in the day. And some of those same people that I developed a sport network for to treat these athletes around the country were involved in football also. We decided to get together back in 2000 formally and kind of introduce ourselves to each other. What are you doing? What's happening? Well, fast forward, we formed the organization. We're a nonprofit organization, and we have three main goals or three main mission statements. Number one, kind of selfishly, help each other, better understand what we do, who we're doing it with, help new guys with the ins and outs. Number two, and these are not in any importance order, but number two is to be able to take the information that we gain at the level that we're gaining it and pass it on to other chiropractors. That's why we have the Professional Football Chiropractic Society Sports Symposium, because there we have the opportunity to do that and so much more. But then number three is equally as important, is to help educate the public of what we're learning at that level. And whether we do it directly to the public in the areas where we're from, or we do it through the different chiropractors and students that attend our conference, we're able to accomplish our three-pronged mission statement. So that's kind of the purpose. And oh, by the way, it's a lot of fun too.
I think that's awesome. I'd love to know the biggest differences. I think back, this seems so organic in its growth, and I know every team is its own business. And what's the biggest difference you've seen from when you started 22 years ago with in the NFL to today? Because it seems like there's a lot more infrastructure, there's a lot more docs, and a lot more opportunity. But when you look at it and you look back from the inside, what was maybe the biggest change or two that you've noticed? And I'm talking specifically relative to chiropractic roles within these organizations.
So, and that's a great question too. I think the biggest thing is utilization. We are utilized now more than ever. There's a document that the Physicians Society and the NFL came out with as to who should be on an NFL sideline, and chiropractors are listed there. We went through a time during COVID where they limited the number, when there were no fans in the stands, they limited the number of people on the sidelines, but we were still there. Why? Because not only for the job that we would do, but to have the ability to help out and work in other areas that may not be your job normally. Sports chiropractors have the ability to be chameleons and fit in wherever we have to and do whatever we have to, leaving our ego at the door.
Alan, I'd love to, whatever degree you're able to sort of share what it's like to be an NFL chiropractor for a team, whether it's your experience or the collective experience of the other docs. Number one, is it true that every NFL team does have a chiropractor on staff? Is that an accurate statement?
So your number one accurate statement is true, but they're all working in different capacities. Some are held on retainer, some are consultants, some are referred to outside of the organization, some cover game day, some, like myself, do all of it. It's myself and two other chiropractors actually working with the Baltimore Ravens. And we all know what our lanes are. We all know what our jobs are. We provide regular chiropractic care at the facility during the season, at least 3 days a week. Plus we have game day or game weekends. We cover home and away, but that's not the same everywhere else. Same with the preseason and the off season. To a certain degree, we're providing some sort of regular care.
Is this a position that, do you travel with the team separately? Are you getting there super early in providing care pre-game, in-game, post-game? I guess I know there's probably no such thing as a typical day, but many young docs out there I know are passionate and interested, and I'd love to know from the inside what you've seen.
Right. So the Reader's Digest version of all that is, if it's a home game, we're there 4 hours before at least. I get there early enough to warm my body up. I do a majority of my treatment before. There are some things that may be done on the sideline, some things done at halftime. And then after the game, depending on whether you win or lose, determines how much work you have. Because if you lose, everything hurts. When you win, you feel a little better, so maybe not. But the away games, I travel with our team. And whenever they're leaving, I'm leaving. If we go to the West Coast, we normally leave on a Friday for a Sunday game. Otherwise, we leave the day before. We provide treatments the night before. We provide treatments the day and that morning, and then provide treatment at the stadium in the same fashion that we just spoke about. One of the incredible things is when a game is done, within 1 hour after a game, all those treatments are done. Athletic trainers are phenomenal and are the bomb at this level because they've got everyone treated, packed up, and we're heading to the airport within an hour after a game. So it is the true definition of organized chaos, but done so well with every different part of the organization. I'm very fortunate to do what I do.
I would say so too. I've got tons of questions. I know everybody else is trying to, ask and understand as well. I'll try to keep them as relevant as I can.
No problem.
Do you see? I don't see many adjusting tables on the sidelines. Is that not allowed, or is that fraud upon, or what do you do on the sidelines during a game? I guess beyond sort of advice and checking to see if people need to, go back to the treatment room, or how does it work?
It's almost like a mini HMO back in the day, where everything is basically done through the head athletic trainer and through the team physician. And then they help determine, okay, you need to see the chiropractor, you need to see the physical therapist, you need to see the orthopedist, you need to see the strength and conditioning guys. And we do all that on the sideline in real time, and you don't need a referral or anything like that. Everything happens quickly. As to where the treatment's done could really depend. It can be done on a bench, but now we have fancy blue tents where things can be done there. Depending on how much needs to be done and how complex, you can go back to the locker room and do it as well. And a lot of it depends on timing, who's on the field, how quickly do you need to get that athlete back out.
One of the things that I've found fascinating kind of just watching, I wouldn't consider myself to be a top tier sports chiropractor, but watching the docs that are is, I always think of the intersection between sports performance, and it's sort of the irony, and I'm interested in your experience with this. I always look at, there's so many people out there in the public that are afraid to get adjusted for, back pain, yet many professional athletes are utilizing chiropractic almost exclusively for performance, related issues, and benefits in many cases. Has that been an evolution that you've witnessed internally? Am I correct with that? Is it mostly about performance and less about pain? Is it a hybrid of all of the above? What have you seen?
I'm going to go with D, a hybrid of all of the above, with a heavy emphasis on performance enhancement. Look, pre-game, if I'm treating 20, 30, 35 guys before a game, all of them aren't hurting. They're looking to optimize their performance, to move and function better. Myself, as well as the other athletic trainers and physicians, are doing the same thing before a game starts. We're not taking care of pain. It's performance enhancement and function, which is ideally what we do in our profession. So it is a natural fit. And again, that goes back to why I think sports chiropractic is so important. How else do you tell the lay person, hey, you should be getting adjusted for X, Y, and Z before you perform, whether it's a weekend warrior playing tennis or in a softball league? You can perform and function better, just like the professionals do. And here in my office, it's the same hands touching those people as are touching the pro athletes. And it's the same philosophy. I'm going to do whatever I can to get you back on your field. Your field may be around the corner. Your field may be in the stadium. But that's how I think we as a profession can continue to evolve and grow through sports.
That's exactly where I'd like to go next, Alan, which is what is currently, I guess, being done? What would you like to see happen as far as exactly that, maybe profession-wide? I mean, obviously, I'm sure this has been extremely beneficial for your personal practice, but I think if most people knew that, many of the people on the field are getting adjusted for performance-related issues, not just because it hurts or because they got a symptom they're responding to, how can the NFL, how can the profession be promoting what's going on more? Because it seems to me like this is the best kept secret in the entire profession. I mean, we're all wondering why chiropractic isn't more mainstream. And here you are taking care of some of the most popular people in the world. What do you see the opportunity being to sort of bring this message to the masses?
So I think doing things like we're doing right now, though, what we're doing may be geared towards chiropractors and not the public. Hopefully it educates those chiropractors to be able to get out in front of the public. Look, my passion is doing just what I'm telling you. I have a couple of speaking gigs in different states and including the Professional Football Chiropractic Society conference coming up at the first weekend of March, which, oh, by the way, is almost sold out, best kept secret. We have to keep figuring out how can we keep growing, but growing quality. Let me give you an example. There's a team in the NFL. They went through 5 chiropractors in 4 years. Does that mean chiropractic doesn't work? Or maybe they're just not getting the right people. And I think, from a practice standpoint, colleges do a great job of teaching us to be the king of our office, to make decisions, to take responsibility. I don't think they're the best at teaching us to play in a sandbox together, where you can work together as a team, leave your ego at the door, which is why a lot of chiropractors fail, which is why I love to get out and teach that stuff. You guys have access to some of the best academians and adjusters in the world. I'm on the other side of that. I'm on the social side of what can we as a profession continue to do at a collegiate, a professional, Olympic, high school, rec, pee-wee level to educate parents, athletes, and kids. Like I'm doing a speaking gig in Michigan for their conference in Traverse City coming up. And I literally sat down, I put a slide together today, a slide. You can tell I'm old, I'm still freaking making slides. So, and it's a picture of a kid that I treated as a kid who went to the University of Maryland and who I treated there, who I ended up treating because he became a member of the Baltimore Ravens. You know, we're at the most visible part of our profession, you know, working in the NFL, but it's every single chiropractor that touches a kid at that young age, that educates the parent, that makes them demand it when they get to the next level, which is why almost every college now has a team chiropractor. So you ask me, what would I like to see? Every stinking college should have a team chiropractor, and most of them do. But it goes so far behind the rec. It's got to start in rec leagues, and then everything just flows up, and then we get to see it on the big screen, and then that's when we get to refer back to the younger ones to say, hey, look what's happening up here. Let's keep this thing going.
That is powerful, and you might answer my question with saying the story that you just sort of elaborated on. But what's been a favorite moment throughout your time of being a sports chiropractor? Watching somebody grow up and play in the NFL must be up there. But what's maybe a highlight or two that comes to mind if we ask you?
But you know what, we put our hands on a lot of people. And I have one of my favorite stories that I tell. We went to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, where we played the San Francisco 49ers back in 2012. And we had all these stories are rushing in my head. So this should be like a 2-hour show, and we'll get it on Netflix. And we'll anyway. So it was a guy that I was one of our more predominant players that I was treating throughout the week, and everything's going great. And then the morning of the Super Bowl was on Sunday. They had taken my table from the training room and brought it to the stadium. And that same guy came in and he's like, you know, Doc, you've been working with me and I got this thing up here and it's kind of bothering me. And I'm like, well, you know, this is one of those chameleon things. You don't have an adjusting table. Where are you going to adjust? So I put a sheet down on the ground, and he had an anterior thoracic that, you know, oh my gosh, this is why it's bothering you. But laying him on the ground and having the entire training staff standing around, and the doctors and coach, whoever was in there was standing around staring, and I laid him down to adjust him, and I said, boom, and in his fashion, in his voice, unlike mine, he said, oh my God. So like, my heart's going like this, and everybody else is like, it's like one of those E.F. Hutton things. And he goes, that pain is gone. It's gone. So I was like, of course it is. Just good luck tonight. I'll see you later before the game. So fast forward, we go to the game. That was the game that the lights went out in the stadium. I tripped over the extension cord. So then we win the game. Now we're at a post-game party. This is like 4 a.m, whatever. And I saw this athlete across the room, and we like approached each other like it was on a beach in slow motion with Bo Derek, and we're, you know, in this embracing hug. And he said, thank you. Thank you for that adjustment earlier. That was one thing I didn't have to think about, playing in the pain. And I'm like, he remembered that adjustment from, you just played in a Super Bowl. And that's the power of what we do that a lot of people don't understand, even at the highest level, that if he remembered that from hours ago, a day ago, and it meant that much to him, it makes me rethink about every adjustment. Every time I touch somebody, I can make a difference in what that person does today. And it's kind of a warm feeling. And you're right. I got more stories like that. So part 2, we'll take care of that.
I look forward to part 2. Before we wrap up, just because we want to be respectful of your time, you did mention you've got an event coming up. It happens to be at the NFL Combine, which itself has to be very cool to watch, learn, see, experience. Spend some time really laying out, what type of chiropractor should be coming to your event. What's your vision for the kind of organization? Where do you see it going? Where would you like it to go? And who would you like to be there learning from you in order to be able to continue to grow with you?
Right. This will be part 3, but no, we'll help you guys wrap this up. So it is held every single year. The pandemic has kind of put a little damper on it. Last year was virtual. The year before, 2020, was right when everything was starting. We got that event in, sold out. And for years building up, we got busier, sold out. And then, oh my gosh, pandemic, now we're going to have to build back up. But now we're built back up. So the event, we send out invites to not only chiropractors, but to students. And every year we have to limit the number of students because every student wants to get involved. That's what I'm talking about by starting at a grassroots level and be able to educate on up. So there are chiropractors and students there. We have great vendors, great support through sponsorship. But we have different speakers that are both in the NFL and outside the NFL. Talking about what's being done at all these different levels. It's not the usual seminar where you hear the same kind of speakers go on. No, it's very different. And we sometimes, because we are held at the same time as the NFL Combine, that we are able to pull people and different coaches and athletes to come speak. And when you're out walking on the streets, you never know who you're going to run into. But it's just a great opportunity. Who should go? Anyone that wants to be involved in sports, football or not. And it's one of those conferences that when you go, you're not just paying attention to what the speaker is saying. You can't wait till a break time so you could. Everybody talks. Oh my gosh, that guy was so nice. He told me that, blah, 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 and he gave me advice, blah, 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 and I didn't know I should be documenting that. So it's just a fun learn fest and great camaraderie. And it's great for all of us. It's selfishly Thursday. We get in on Thursday. We get to hang out with each other. We have our annual meeting. And then the conference is Friday, Saturday. So the whole weekend is just very enjoyable.
It sounds absolutely awesome. We're going to encourage everybody listening and watching. Be sure to check it out this year and the following years. I'm sure it will continue to evolve. And Alan, everybody heard it. You've already committed to a part 2, so you can't get out of it now. We'll come back around to you later on this year for sure. We really appreciate you taking the time. And I'm just going to say on behalf of Jason, myself, and our entire team, thank you so much for spearheading what has helped so many docs help that many more people. You're awesome, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
And that was Dr. Alan Sokoloff of the Professional Football Chiropractic Society. Got to make sure I get that order right. But you heard it at the Combine. Yes, the big game is coming up soon. The Combine happens not too long after that. They are having their annual meeting. If you are short on CE, passionate about sports, or just want to meet some really great chiropractors, the Professional Football Chiropractic Society is hosting their annual event at the Combine, I believe the first weekend of March. Check out the website to be sure. It's in Indianapolis, from what I understand. Jason, what's maybe a take-home message or two that you had? I know that was an interview both you and I were looking forward to, and it over-delivered. What was it? What's a highlight for you?
I just think it's awesome. I one of the things he mentioned was, that the chiropractors sort of meet out on the 30-yard line after every game. And we were even giving them some suggestions. I'll sort of say, keep an eye out for future possible collaborations, because there's just so much opportunity to share what the world's best athletes, at least the most popular athletes. I mean, the NFL is now international, has been for a while, but it's even growing international. We talked about the possibility of, are they getting adjusted on the sidelines? What's going on? How's it happening? But the bottom line is elite level professional athletes in the most famous sports that are out there are using chiropractic care for performance in addition to helping them heal from their injuries. That's an awesome story. And we've got to do a much better job sharing that story with as many people as possible. We had a great opportunity to, talk to Alan and, fingers crossed and, all good hopes. Maybe we'll get to do some interesting work with them in the future. I certainly look forward to it and hope so a lot.
I feel exactly the same way. And on that note about spreading the word, let's talk about strategic marketing. Let's dive into our next segment on today's Smart Chiropractor show. It's time for strategic marketing on today's Smart Chiropractor show. This is where we get tactical and practical, showcasing opportunities for you to improve the communications and marketing in your practice. What are those action steps you can take? I know a lot of docs out there that are passionate about serving their community. They're passionate about getting out there and telling the story. They're passionate about building and growing a practice that they can be super proud of. And often the question becomes, what do I do to get there? And that is what strategic marketing is all about. Today, we're going to talk about how to get started with video. Video is just one of those channels, platforms. You can go on any platform and shoot video, Facebook, Instagram, your website, YouTube. You could post a video in a variety of different places. But I want to talk about just some practical steps in and around video production and get Jason's feedback as well, because video, I'm going to tell you, it's a lot easier than you think it is. So what are the tactical tips with video? A couple things to keep in mind. Video is a skill, just like an adjustment. Your 10th video is going to be probably better than your first. Your 10th adjustment is probably better than the first adjustment. So don't get stressed out when you start. So many docs, and I understand, as a naturally introverted person, hopping on video the first time was like painstaking, and nobody loves to, not that many people I should say, love to watch themselves on video. So know that you're not alone. Know that everybody feels the same way, but the action steps you take today, the sooner you get in those reps and understand, hey, my 100th video is going to be better. My 10th video is going to be better. You just got to build that skill. You gotta work out to build that muscle. As Gary Vaynerchuk would say, you can't watch somebody do push-ups and expect to get ripped. You got to get down there and do them yourself. So the same thing holds true with video. Don't get overly fearful or stressed out. You just got to get started. The other thing to keep in mind is that the beauty of what we all have in our pockets these days is it's beyond words, practically. You don't need to necessarily have the latest, greatest DSLR camera and all of the lighting and a perfect microphone to get started. Quite often, if you have a relatively new iPhone or relatively new Android-based phone, you're going to do just fine. These phones produce video that is astounding in quality. So here are the two tips that I would give you to get started, of how to get started with video. One is that you want to ensure that your audio is clear. We think about video visually, and that's an important component, but number one is having clear audio. So ensure that the camera is not 8,000 feet away. Make sure it's close enough that when you're speaking and speaking loudly, that you're going to have clear audio go in. And ideally, you're not going to be in a loud atmosphere, a loud place that really distracts from whatever you're saying. Because the number one reason why people click off of videos is actually poor audio quality. So you want to ensure you have the highest audio quality. I can tell you the microphones on your smartphone is going to be fantastic as long as you're in a relatively quiet environment and you're speaking with a little bit of oomph. So that is number one. And number two is the lighting component. You don't need super fancy lights. If you want to check out a video recording guide, we have that as a blog at thesmartchiropractor.com. I'll try to drop that link down below. We have a complete guide there that showcases every single bell and whistle you can have and what we use personally ourselves. However, the most important thing with lighting to keep in mind is if you have a window near you, have it in front of you or to the side, because if you have the light behind you, you become a shadow and nobody can see. So you want to light up your face. Think about it that way. If you're near a window, have the light coming in from the side, have the light coming in from the front so that you are well illuminated. That is going to 9 times out of 10 get you very far down the road in terms of having a high production quality on your video. for about $0. Jason, when we talk video, I know this is an area that we try to encourage, and we're going to do a lot more intense job this year, encouraging our docs to get out there and shoot video that are members of Smart Chiropractor, because we give them those scripts week after week. What are your thoughts about video? How do you get started? I know you and I have been doing it a little while, but if you think back to when you got started, what were maybe a tip or two that you would offer a doc just getting started today?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing is to, assess the circumstance. And what I mean by assess the circumstance is, if you're like me and Jeff, we're both introverts. This is not natural for us. If you're like us, you probably question, does anybody really care what I'm going to say? Is it worth my time? Am I going to really come across as okay? And what about the haters? We know they're out there. So it's very easy to talk yourself out of taking action. There's plenty of reasons that are legitimate reasons why you probably don't want to do it. It's not comfortable. There's risk that somebody's going to not like you. They're going to say something bad and judge you, all those things, just like Jeff and I are going through right now. This is how it is and how it works. However, if you're also like us, then you recognize that there's also no more powerful, easier, free way to get your specific message to your audience. There's just nothing better. And I mean that on every level. There's pros and cons to everything. Audio is great, gives you a great way to connect with people. Written is great. People love to read things in certain cases and so on. But when you put it all together, video really is the package. It communicates your visuals. It communicates your facial expressions as well as audio. And the reality is, with a camera or phone, or, make sure you have a tripod or something. Again, all the things, the practical tips Jeff's given you, you recognize that the benefits of speaking to my audience about how I can be of best service, about the value I can offer, that outweighs all that negative self-talk that is in there also. We all have it. We all go through it. Jeff and I, are there to support each other on a regular basis. And I'll even encourage that, to find an accountability partner. One of the things that you may want to consider is to find somebody to even maybe do videos with you. It's easier. It's more fun. I think it's more interesting, more than just a talking head. And you probably have a CA or another associate in your practice, or I see lots of chiropractors doing this different ways, and you can be creative. So the most important thing is to understand that results follow action. No action, no results. So if you're okay with no results, then you don't have to listen to us. If you want results, you're going to have to take some sort of action. And if the question is, well, what action should I take? The answer is two things. One, you should be hiring the Smart Chiropractor to automate the day-to-day stuff that really is hard work, that is required to keep your audience entertained. The amount of content necessary to keep people attentive to your channel, to your message, is somewhat overwhelming. And there's a very small percentage of you chiropractors out there that really want to take on that Herculean effort of being solely responsible for content. Now, we see this out there. Jeff and I, in fact, interviewed someone who's a student, who's all over Instagram, growing a massive following. And I started following her as well. And lots of chiropractors are following, just to see, how do you do this thing? How do you do it right? She's young, she's attractive, she enjoys doing this clearly, super creative. She's got all the right things. And even I go, wow, that's a lot. I mean, I don't want to do that much work. So that's part of what you've got to figure out in terms of your strategy. The other side of the equation of just hiring us to do only the work for you with you doing nothing is a good idea. It will get, that's action. It'll get you some results. But ultimately, if you're looking for best results, it is that 1-2 punch. Let us handle the things that are more generic, that are research-based, that require graphic design and, campaigns that are logical and make sense. Let us put together sort of your curriculum for you. But as Jeff and I always like to say, this is sort of like paint by numbers meets karaoke. You should be following step 1, 2, 3, 4, like paint by numbers. And karaoke, we give you scripts, we give you ideas, we give you the research, we give you all the tools you need so that you can express yourself your way. So like singing the words off the screen, but in your own unique way of doing it, you should sing your song, and we provide you the lyrics in order to be able to make it simple and easy to do so. But get over it. There are going to be people who don't like you. There are going to be people who say, that's ridiculous, that's wrong, I can do it better, that's not true, it's whatever critical reality there is out there, just know everybody faces it. Whether you're Tom Cruise or Jennifer Lopez or whatever the biggest stars out there right now, everybody has critics. Don't think you're not going to have them, but recognize that's just the cost of doing business. And don't let the critics hold you down from doing what you really need to do, which is getting your message out to your people to get the results that you want. That's how it works. Make sure you take the time. And Jeff said it also, Malcolm Gladwell, you got to put in your reps, you got to put in your hours. And the more you do it, the better you get. Nobody's done their best video the first time if they keep on going. Don't think you're not going to have that experience as well. So that's the reality of it. The good news is, like BJ Palmer, who bought radio stations, bought television stations, all because he knew the need to use these technologies to get the message out there. Guess what, folks? You've got your own version of your own television station, radio station, printing press in your pocket or on your desk. You already have it. You just got to know what to say and maybe get a little oomph and a little bit of go get them to get out there, take a little risk, have a little fun, put a smile on your face, and just share your truth. It's really that simple.
Jason, you just shared a BJ Palmer quote. I'm going to repeat my 3 practical tips for getting started with video, but I was going to go with the Seth Rogen quote. The hater's going to hate and the ain'ter's going to ain't, but I'm going to have to give it to you on the BJ Palmer quote. I might have taken the cake on that one. 3 tips to get started with video. Number 1, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. Just get out there, get in those reps. You will be happy you did when you look back. The sooner you get started, the faster you'll build that skill set. Number 2, ensure that you have nice, clear audio. So be in a semi-quiet space. Make sure that you're projecting enough for your phone to pick it up. And yes, your phone is going to be good enough. 99.9% of the time, the video is incredibly shot on so many phones today. And the 3rd tip is lighting. Don't sit in front of a window. I think all of us do that the first time we shoot a video, and it makes you look just like a shadow. You can't see the face. So you want the window in front of you or to the side so you can have some nice lighting. You're in a quiet space and you're projecting. Your audio is going to come through fantastically. And you do that a few times and build that consistency, as we like to say, you are going to see results as time goes on. You're going to impact a lot more people's lives. So that's it for our strategic marketing segment on today's Smart Chiropractor show. We are going to move over to business principles. We are finishing strong with a concept we've been talking about, we're going to continue to talk about, and we're going to encourage you to ask questions as well. What is that topic? Stay tuned and you're about to find out. Business Principles, the Smart Chiropractor Show. It's February 1st, 2022. Jason, we're going to talk about the importance of diversifying your revenue and income this year. This is a passion of yours and mine, and this segment is brought to you by The Payday Practice. That's an upcoming book by Jason and myself. We are putting some finishing touches on. You're going to see it this year. We have some pre-release versions coming up soon, but this is about how you can generate monthly recurring revenue that meets or exceeds your monthly expenses. And your practice changes when that happens. Jason, when we talk about diversifying revenue streams, this sounds like you have to go to Wharton School of Business here. How do you break this down in a way that docs out there can think about and then can start applying in their practice?
Well, I don't like to be negative or talk negative or, I like to be an optimist and talk about the bright side of things. But I want to acknowledge a reality in our profession. And that is our profession has been taught that the way we do business, the way we run our practice is on a fee-for-service transactional basis, right? You come in, you lay down, I provide service. Either you pay me or your insurance company pays me. Thank you very much. And if I do more of it, I provide more value, I provide more service, I collect more revenue, I collect more income. That sounds like most practices today. And most of you would go, well, of course, that's obvious. That's the way it is. The challenge with that is that if you've been in practice for a period of time, you notice that you're on somewhat of a treadmill, and it's really difficult to make any forward momentum, forward progress. And what typically happens is many chiropractors, including myself for years, find yourself getting frustrated that every single month, when it comes to the first day of the month, most of us have the same issue. Time for rent, time for mortgage, time for payroll, time for expenses. Many expenses are on the first of the month. And the reality is, if you're doing things on a transactional basis, and the pandemic is a great example of what kind of happens between these two groups, and we've seen the data and the research of those doctors who have strictly transactional fee-for-service type practices compared to those practices that have some sort of membership or subscription. In other words, some sort of way of generating monthly recurring revenue. And those chiropractors that are doing that now oftentimes will say, oh, I do that. I have membership plans or monthly plans. A lot of chiropractors will say, I get paid X amount of dollars per month, and you provide whatever services in exchange for that monthly fee. Now, some of you are doing it right. Most of you are doing it, when I say wrong, I'm going to say in a way that isn't getting you paid to the degree that you should. And I was guilty of that for years. My heart is bigger than my wallet. And so I would be willing to give away whatever it takes, because what's the big deal? It's my two hands, it's my table, it's a few moments. They need it. The more help they get, the more they should theoretically be talking about me and referring to me. All that makes perfect sense, except it doesn't often work that way in the long term. And so if you're giving away care for monthly fees in order to lower your fee to make it affordable, I absolutely commend you on the intention, but I want to make sure that you're paying attention to the opportunity and not giving it all away. And I'm not against giving things away. There are times and places where people deserve it and it's appropriate. Pro bono care is absolutely an appropriate thing if you're doing it consciously and you're doing it in a way that you do it in a limited basis, unless you're independently wealthy and can afford to pay all your bills, and you're not going to generate resentment for people getting your care and you not getting paid. If that's not you and you can afford to give it away, great. That's on you. That's up to you. That's a wonderful way of being generous. But if you've got bills to pay and you've got financial responsibilities and you've got people counting on you for their paychecks and or keep a roof over their head and food in their mouth, then you got to think about things a little bit differently. And it's a long way of introducing the concept of the payday practice. And the payday practice is specifically designed to turn the first day of every month from, oh man, are we back to zero again? We just broke a record last month. We did terrific. And here we are back to big fat zero in collections, hoping we're going to be able to climb the mountain of finances again this month so that you have more money than you do expenses coming in. And for many of you, that's still very questionable. And that's where financial stress seeps in and ends up taking over much of our lives. We get down on ourselves. We get down on the choices. Did I make the right choice to be in the right profession? Am I doing this right? Why can't I provide for my family the way they expect me to and should expect me to? And then you get resentment from family members. Why can't we go on vacation? How come you can't pay for the wedding I've always dreamed of? On and on and on and on. And practice becomes financially frustrating. And when you're financially frustrated, I bet you're probably not delivering your best care. You're probably not as energetic and attractive as you probably would be if you were able to practice under these circumstances. Imagine for a moment that if the first day of every month was, oh man, back to zero, and you turned the first day of every month into payday, meaning what would your life be like? What would your practice be like? What would your feelings be like? What would your relationships be like if you knew that every first day of every month was payday? And payday means that you're able to generate enough money on the first to cover all your monthly recurring expenses. You know the money you have to pay this month, next month, the month after that, even the month after that. You know your financial responsibilities. You could actually calculate them if I asked you to. And you could come up with a number that we call your MVMI, your minimum viable monthly income. The least amount of money you must make to not feel financially stressed out. Maybe that starts to seep over into starting to feel free enough to be able to accept patients you want to accept and not accept patients who don't want to follow your recommendations the way you recommend them. Free enough to be able to create a schedule that works for you and your lifestyle. Free enough to be able to know that you're going to be able to cover your expenses with confidence, not with stress. And that's what this recurring revenue conversation is all about. That's what the payday practice is all about. And it starts with making a mental shift from the old way of just transactional, you lay down, you pay me, or the insurance company pays me, even worse, to what do I need to build? What do I need to set up? How do I install a system so that moving forward, I can generate monthly recurring revenue that starts to, I'm not saying day one, day two, but over time, you're able to build enough monthly recurring revenue to meet your monthly recurring expenses. That is our goal for you in 2022 and beyond, is to get rid of the financial stress and bring in the financial freedom that comes along with having the certainty, the confidence, the joy of knowing you're going to be able to cover your expenses each and every month, I'll dare say automatically. That's what the payday practice is all about, Jeff. We're talking about recurring revenue. You and I have been working on this book and now a training that'll be out very soon to teach this exact concept. What did I miss, and what are some of your favorite parts about really bringing this idea to the profession that we've seen in many tech companies, a lot of the unicorn businesses, meaning businesses that are worth $1 billion, with $1 billion or more, sometimes started months ago, let alone years ago, certainly not even decades. They're oftentimes taking over the incumbent giant companies because they follow this model of recurring revenue on a regular monthly or even annual basis. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
It's time for chiropractors to step into the game. And what I mean by that is so many of us are caregivers by nature. We love delivering the care hands-on in our practice and a fee-for-service model, basically. And that's awesome. It's fantastic. However, there has to be, I'm going to encourage docs out there and continually encourage, think about what are those revenue lines that can attach into your practice, your business, that make sense, that you're passionate about, that generate recurring revenue while delivering higher value to your patients. In dental, they might have toothpaste and toothbrushes, in almost every other, in veterinary, they have so many things as well. Yet in chiropractic, we rarely see this implemented at any level. And docs, and they think about a supplement, they think about transactionally selling it at their front desk. And quite frankly, we know the stats on this type of stuff. 95% of the time, that just doesn't work. But 5% of the docs get super into it. They get super passionate. They're able to make those transactional sales day in and day out. And they're able to be very, very successful. Yet most docs feel like, just the time, it just doesn't work out ultimately the way that they would like it to. So the key part about that is not having to resell something all the time. the benefits of having drop shipping, about having recurring revenue, regardless of what type of product it is that it enables you to be free of inventory. It enables you to be free of that customer service. It enables you to be free of feeling like you're selling all the time. This is really the complete opposite. This is about highlighting some of your favorite items. What are those things that you are passionate about? And making it easy for, this is why we built the Smart Care store system, making it easy for your patients, your clients, the individuals who come into your practice to hop on, subscribe and save, and have it come to their door. And technologically, that's been super challenging. That's why it's taken us over a year to really build our Smart Care store system that we launched exclusively for Smart Chiropractor members. But this is going to be something you're going to see a lot of momentum around. And if it's a concept that scares you a little bit, if it's a concept that sounds a little unfamiliar, now's the right time to start thinking about it. And that's really the first step. And that's business principles. We're going to spend a lot of time diving into this throughout the year, because the first step is to just kind of get your head around it. Because I know there are so many docs who, they see subscription services, they look at their business, and there's like, golly, there's just about nothing in common here. And the truth is, that's not true. And here's my example of that. It's one I used before, and it's one I'll continue to use. A patient comes in to see me. They ask me, what's my favorite blank? Insert anything for blank. Pillow, orthotic, tape, supplement, vitamin D, multivit, whatever it might be. I spend 10 minutes poorly describing it, of how they can purchase it on Amazon. They go home, bang their head against the wall, trying to figure out which one it is out of a list of a bazillion. They end up coming back in, showcasing, look what I bought, which is the wrong thing. And the process starts all over again. What a wonderful way to have a patient-centric model of care. I think there's a better way, and that's enabling you to have the simple conversation. What do I like about this? Well, great question, Nancy. Why don't you hop over to my online store where you can have it drop shipped directly to your door? As a matter of fact, Jack at the front desk can give you the QR code. You can hop onto the store before you walk out the front door. Making things easy for your patients, saving you time. And by the way, there's a side effect here of creating a little bit of additional revenue that can become substantial over time for you and your practice. So, Jason, those are my thoughts on it. I'm gonna kick it back over to you for some closing thoughts. It can be around business principles or anything that we talked about on today's show.
Well, one of the things I can hear some of you saying all kinds of things. I hear what you're thinking. I know it. I get it. Supplements. I'm a chiropractor, or whatever excuses, resistance, negativity, buts, but what we're going to say is there is a model for everyone. So if you are a principled chiropractor that only wants to provide adjustments, that's it. You don't want to talk any of that stuff. I understand. And there's a model for you where you can create a proactive membership for people in your practice to come on in and pay you monthly for care, whether they have symptoms or not. That's the thing, is how do you position what your membership is so that there is continuity, people stay with it. That's the art of communication that we can help you with. But we want to let you know there is a model for everyone. So if you like the idea of, well, wait a minute, you mean I could generate recurring revenue by better serving the people who are already asking me these questions, and in fact sort of count on me for these things as their health expert? I could actually better serve them without any work on my part, and I don't have to deal with sales tax and ordering, shipping, and pilferage, which is people stealing, and back and returns and customer service and all the hassle, the real legitimate hassle, which is why very few of you are currently doing any kind of e-commerce and so on. Is it work? It's a hassle. If you say to yourself, am I better off providing another adjustment or selling a bottle of supplements? The way most docs are doing it now, you're better off providing another adjustment. So it's only when the technology and the systems and the automated marketing and the customer service can be outsourced, and all of that is done for you in a very smart, intelligent way, that all of a sudden it starts making a lot of, I want to say sense, and I mean dollars, that you can set it and forget it. you've got hundreds, maybe even thousands of people on your email list who come to see you on a regular basis, who look to you as their health authority, their health influencer, their health expert. They're scrolling through Instagram and TikTok looking for somebody to say, here's the way to do it. That's what's going on out there if you're not paying attention. But shouldn't that be you for your people? Do you really want to let your clients, your patients, and all the people you've ever seen before? Don't forget, that's our philosophy here, is your best next new patient is keeping your current people. If you increased the retention, if you had more people stay longer, there's a really good chance, if you do the math, you don't need as many new patients as you think you do. So it's a mathematical formula. You all have a certain capacity. How are you going to fill up the capacity of your time? You can offer more chiropractic care on a recurring monthly basis. We'll teach you how to do it. You can outsource the whole concept to the Smart Care store and the Basis Health supplements so that you don't even have to touch the product. You don't have to ship it. You don't have to inventory it. You don't have to sales tax any of that stuff. It's all handled for you. And then the third option is you see many of these membership programs. Learn how to get rid of your pain. Learn how to be healthier. The 7 steps to fill in the blank. If you're a chiropractor, you're an expert. The only question is, what do you want to be known as an expert in? Because you've got choices. You can talk about pain. You can talk about performance. You could talk about any specialties that you enjoy and like. You can figure out what your audience of people who you already work with want to learn most and put together an online program that people subscribe to on a monthly basis and start generating monthly recurring revenue that meets your monthly recurring expenses. We're not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. If whatever you're doing now that's working for you, keep on doing it. This is not a complete 100% change in your business model. This is an additional way. Keep doing what's working. You don't have to change anything. It's simply understanding that the absolute best way to become better at what you do now is to get rid of the financial stress that hinders you from being your best. And the best way to get rid of your financial stress is to have the confidence you can handle your financial expenses. And if you could wave a magic wand, if you could rub your crystal ball or Aladdin's lamp and have the wishes you want, most of us would wish for financial security. And most chiropractors, our belief is, most chiropractors are not looking to be gazillionaires. Most chiropractors are not looking to be ultra wealthy. You're not looking to make gazillions of dollars. Sure, it would be nice if you win the lottery. I'm saying in terms of your practice, I'm betting that if your primary goal is to be super wealthy, you probably didn't choose to become a service provider of any kind, especially a chiropractor. That's not the business model to become super wealthy. What I find is that most service professionals, including chiropractors, love serving. You love helping people. You love giving people your knowledge, your expertise, and your skill set. And the best way for you to be of best value for them is to get the financial stress out of the way. And this is the best way to do it. Make sure you can generate monthly recurring revenue that meets your monthly recurring expenses. We call it the payday practice. Keep your eyes out, learn more, keep joining in, ask questions, lean in, but that's where we're going in 2022 and beyond. Because as Jeff and I, as co-creators of the Smart Chiropractor, think about the smartest idea that we can bring to this profession that's not there yet, this is that idea. Hopefully you'll like it. Hopefully you'll lean in, join us, and build your payday practice for your financial security, for your family's benefit, and absolutely for the people in your community's benefit. Because when you can afford to tell the truth, and when you stop saying what people need to hear because that's what's going to get them to spend the money, and you start sharing what is actually authentically true for you, you'll be amazed at how your practice grows.
Great episode today, Jason. Smart Chiropractor Show, February 1st, 2022. A absolutely great episode. Dr. Alan Sokoloff, Dr. Tera Giroux. We talked mindset. We had clinical conversations. We did it all. We had marketing strategy and business principles to wrap things up. We will be back next week, each and every Tuesday. Tune in across all of the various channels, and you will catch us having conversations relevant to your practice. This is all brought to you by the Smart Chiropractor. If you'd like to generate more new patient leads, new patients, better retention, and more reactivations without spending any money on advertising, head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. That's thesmartchiropractor.com. On behalf of Dr. Jason, our entire team, I'm Dr. Jeff. We'll see you next week for another Smart Chiropractor Show. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye. Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Chiropractor. We are posting videos on how you can market your chiropractic practice in a way that teach and invites consistently. We have found that is the magic formula to big time growth. So if you like this video, be sure to comment down below, smash that subscribe button, or visit us at thesmartchiropractor.com.